All right, let's dive into something truly fascinating, Generative Adversarial Networks, or GANs. If you have ever wondered how AI can generate ultra-realistic images, create synthetic voices, or even dream up completely new designs, then you're in the right place. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this technology to see how two neural networks, locked in a competitive battle, can create something truly remarkable. First, we'll start with an introduction to GANs, breaking down their core components and understanding why they're such a game changer. Then we'll step into the heart of the action, how GANs actually work. Think of it like a strategic battle between a master forger and an expert detective, constantly pushing each other to improve. From there, we'll zoom in on the generator and discriminator, the two opposing forces that power this technology. You'll see how they evolve, train, and refine their abilities. But it doesn't stop there. Training GANs isn't just about setting them loose, it's a delicate process. And if done wrong, things can go completely off the rails. We'll talk about challenges like mode collapse, vanishing gradients, and the unpredictable instability that can make or break a GAN model. And just when you think you've wrapped your head around the basics, we'll venture into advanced architectures like DCGAN and CycleGAN, which push the boundaries of what's possible. And here's where it gets really exciting, real-world applications, from revolutionizing art and design to generating synthetic medical data that could change the face of healthcare. GANs are already shaping industries in ways you wouldn't believe, but with great power comes great responsibility. We can't ignore the ethical implications, especially when it comes to deepfakes, misinformation, and privacy concerns. So, where is all of this headed? What does the future hold for GANs? We'll wrap things up by looking ahead at the next frontier, cross-domain applications, new training techniques, and even GANs that can create customized content on demand. Now, before we jump into the first slide, here's something to think about. Imagine a world where you can't tell if an image, a video, or even a voice recording is real or artificially generated. How would that change the way we trust what we see and hear? Keep that in mind, because by the end of this, you might never look at AI-generated content the same way again. Let's get started. Artificial intelligence has come a long way, from simple rule-based systems to deep learning models that can think, create, and even deceive. But what if I told you that some of the most cutting-edge AI models are built on competition? That's exactly what happens in Generative Adversarial Networks, GANs, a system where two neural networks constantly outsmart each other, resulting in astonishingly realistic outputs. GANs are not just another machine learning model, they're a revolution in AI-generated content. They power deepfakes, create hyper-realistic images from scratch, and even compose music that sounds human-made. But at their core, GANs are built on a simple yet powerful idea. A generator tries to create fake data, while a discriminator acts as a detective, trying to catch the fakes. Over time, the generator gets so good that even the discriminator struggles to tell real from fake. These models are transforming industries. Think AI-generated artwork, synthetic medical data, hyper-realistic video game graphics, and even fashion design. But with such power comes big ethical questions. If AI can generate anything, how do we distinguish fact from fiction? In this session, we'll break down GANs step by step, how they work, how they're trained, where they're used, and the challenges they face. By the end, you'll understand why GANs are one of the most exciting, controversial, and game-changing AI technologies today. So, let's dive in. But before we move to the next slide, here's something to think about. If AI can create images so real that even a human can't tell the difference, what does that mean for trust in digital content? Keep that in mind as we move forward. All right, picture this. You're at an art museum, staring at a breathtaking painting. The details are flawless, the brushstrokes impeccable, but then someone whispers, "It's a fake." You blink. A fake? but it looks so real. Now imagine there's an artist so skilled at forging masterpieces that even the world's top experts can't tell the difference. Every time they get caught, they learn, adapt, and improve until one day their work is indistinguishable from the real thing. This, my friends, is exactly how GANs work, except instead of paint and canvases, we're dealing with data and neural networks. At the heart of it all, there's an ongoing battle between two AI models, one trying to generate something real, the other trying to expose the fraud. The first, the generator, is the forger. Its job is to create fake data, images, music, even human faces, so convincing that no one can tell they're artificial. Then there's the discriminator, the critic, the detective. It takes a hard look at each piece and says, nope, this one's fake, or this might be real. The game continues round after round until the generator becomes so good that even the best critic in the world, this highly trained AI detective, starts second-guessing itself. Now, let's rewind and look at how this whole showdown begins. In the early stages, the generator is like a terrible artist, drawing nothing but blurry blobs and random shapes. The discriminator has it easy, confidently calling out the fakes. But here's where things get interesting. Every time the generator gets caught, it learns from its mistakes. It tweaks its approach, adjusts its parameters, and tries again. The discriminator, not wanting to be fooled, levels up as well, sharpening its ability to tell real from fake. This back and forth continues, an endless loop of deception and detection until the generator starts producing data so realistic that even the most trained AI struggles to tell it apart from actual data. It's like watching two opponents play chess, but instead of just strategizing, they're constantly evolving. Imagine if every time you lost a game of chess, you instantly understood why and could use that knowledge to play better next time. Eventually, you'd become nearly unbeatable. That's what's happening inside a GAN. Two networks learning from each other at an insane speed. It's not just about generating something random, it's about crafting something that fits into reality so perfectly that even an expert can't distinguish between what's artificial and what's real. And here's the kicker. GANs aren't just a cool AI experiment. They're already being used to generate synthetic human faces, enhance low-resolution photos, create virtual fashion models, and even design entirely new objects that don't exist in the real world. But with all this power comes an important question. If an AI can generate a face, a voice, or even a full video that looks and sounds real, how do we know what to trust anymore? Let that sink in for a second, because this is only the beginning. Imagine you're an aspiring artist, but instead of painting on a canvas, you start with pure chaos. Random noise, meaningless pixels, absolute nonsense. Your job? To turn that mess into a masterpiece. But there's a catch. You have no idea what a masterpiece actually looks like. Sounds impossible, right? Welcome to the life of the generator, the creative brain of a generative adversarial network. At the start, the generator is clueless. It takes in a bunch of random numbers. Imagine scribbling blindfolded on a piece of paper and tries to turn them into something meaningful. At first, what comes out is garbage, a blurry smudge, a distorted mess. But that's okay because the generator has a secret weapon, feedback. Every time it spits out a fake, the discriminator, its rival, its judge, its harshest critic, steps in and says, nope, that's obviously fake. And the generator, instead of getting discouraged, takes notes, learns from its mistakes, and tries again. With every cycle, the generator improves. It's like an artist sketching hundreds, thousands, even millions of drafts, slowly refining the details. At first, it might produce something that vaguely resembles a face, maybe 2 dots for eyes, a rough shape for a head. But the discriminator is tough. Still fake, it says. So the generator tweaks its approach, fine-tuning shadows, adding texture, sharpening details. Over time, something magical happens. The once random noise transforms into a strikingly realistic face, an image so lifelike that even humans start second-guessing whether it's real or artificial. The way it does this is by mapping what's called a latent space, a hidden mathematical world, where every point represents a different version of reality. Imagine having a dial where you can slowly turn up the smiling factor in a generated face, or change the hairstyle, or shift from male to female, all by navigating this invisible space of possibilities. That's the power of the generator. It doesn't just copy real data, it understands the essence of what makes something look real and then creates entirely new original versions of it. But here's the crazy part. The generator is never actually shown real images. It never sees a photo of a human face. All it knows is that its outputs are being judged pass or fail, real or fake. It blindly adjusts itself bit by bit until it masters the art of deception. If you've ever seen a hyper-realistic AI-generated face online, chances are it was created by a GAN where the generator fought its way to perfection through countless rounds of trial and error. And the best part? This isn't just about faces. The generator can be trained to create anything: paintings in the style of Van Gogh, synthetic medical scans for disease research, even entire virtual worlds. But the real question is, how far can we push it? If a generator can master faces, could it eventually master creativity itself? Could AI generate art, music, or ideas that rival human genius? Before we answer that, we need to meet its opponent, the one force standing in its way, constantly keeping it in check. Get ready, because up next, we're talking about the discriminator, the judge, the enforcer, and the reason the generator can never slack off. All right, let's talk about the discriminator, the AI that never lets its guard down, the watchdog, the critic, the one standing between the generator and total chaos. If the generator is the ambitious artist trying to create something convincing, the discriminator is the strict art critic who isn't impressed by anything less than perfection. And trust me, at the beginning, it has zero trouble spotting the fakes. Imagine a security guard at a club checking IDs at the door. The generator is trying to sneak in with a fake ID, an image that looks real but isn't. At first, it's an easy job for the discriminator. The generator's early attempts are awful. Think Picasso-level distortions of faces, weirdly shaped eyes, noses where mouths should be. The discriminator barely has to try. Fake, 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 it says, sending the generator back to the drawing board. But here's the catch. The generator is a fast learner. Each time it fails, it figures out why it failed and improves. And as the generator gets better, the discriminator has to get even sharper to keep up. This is where things get interesting. The discriminator isn't just a passive judge. It's actively learning. It looks at real images and studies their details: texture, contrast, structure, the way shadows fall, the way pixels align. It learns the patterns of real-world data so it can detect anything that doesn't quite fit. When it's shown an image, it doesn't just say real or fake randomly. It calculates the probability, training itself to be more precise with every round. It's like a detective scanning for microscopic clues, searching for anything that feels off. But the real challenge? Balance. If the discriminator becomes too good, it rejects everything. It becomes so strict that even slight imperfections in the generator's work get flagged, leaving no room for improvement. On the flip side, if the discriminator is too weak, the generator wins too easily and stops learning. The perfect balance is when both models are improving at the same time, constantly pushing each other to the limit, refining their skills, leveling up together, and this is why GANs are so powerful. Unlike traditional AI models that just memorize patterns, GANs evolve. The generator is forced to get better at deception, and the discriminator is forced to get better at detection. It's a never-ending arms race, a cat-and-mouse game where the line between real and fake keeps getting blurrier. And when this training goes on for long enough, something almost magical happens. The generated data becomes so convincing that even humans start to struggle to tell the difference. Think about that for a second. The discriminator, this AI detective, eventually loses to the generator. That's the end goal. The generator becomes so skilled that its fake images pass as real ones, even against the toughest scrutiny. And when that happens, we enter a world where AI can create faces, voices, and entire realities that never existed before. But here's the big question. What happens when the line between real and fake completely disappears? We're heading into a world where GANs are generating not just images, but videos, human-like voices, and even deepfake identities. Are we ready for that? Before we get into the implications, we need to understand how these models are actually trained, because trust me, it's not as simple as just pressing a button and watching magic happen. Let's dive into the process behind making GANs work. All right, let's get real for a second. Training a GAN is not like baking a cake where you just throw in the ingredients, set the timer, and wait for perfection. No, training a GAN is more like teaching two stubborn rivals to outsmart each other in a never-ending game of poker. It's unpredictable, messy, and if you're not careful, the whole thing can go completely off the rails. It all starts with initialization. The generator and discriminator both begin as clueless as two toddlers playing chess for the first time. The generator starts by spitting out pure randomness, static, noise, gibberish. Meanwhile, the discriminator is thrown into the deep end, trying to distinguish between real images and this nonsense. In the beginning, it's an easy job. The generator's first attempts are so bad they look like a kindergartner's doodles, and the discriminator confidently smacks them down, saying, "Fake, fake, fake." But here's where the magic begins. Every time the discriminator successfully calls out a fake, the generator learns from its mistakes. It tweaks its approach, adjusts its parameters, and generates a slightly better version. The discriminator, in response, sharpens its eye, adapting to these new and improved fakes. This constant push and pull, where the generator keeps improving and the discriminator keeps getting stricter, creates an incredibly intense learning process. It's like a master sculptor carving out a statue, refining every tiny detail until perfection is reached. And this isn't a quick process. Training a GAN takes thousands, sometimes millions of iterations. At every step, the models exchange information, adjust their strategies, and fine-tune their abilities. It's trial and error at an insane scale. But, and this is a big but, if things go even slightly wrong, the whole system can collapse. If the generator gets too smart too quickly, it can start producing hyper-realistic fakes while the discriminator is still catching up, making training unstable. On the flip side, if the discriminator becomes too strict, it rejects everything and gives the generator no useful feedback to improve. It's like playing soccer against a goalie who blocks every shot. You never get a chance to score, so you don't get better at shooting. The key to successful GAN training is finding the sweet spot, a delicate balance where the generator is just good enough to keep the discriminator on its toes, but not so good that it wins outright. Researchers fine-tune this balance by tweaking learning rates, adjusting the way the models receive feedback, and sometimes even adding a bit of randomness to keep things interesting. It's like coaching two competitors to be evenly matched so they both improve over time. And when it all works, the results are mind-blowing. The generator starts producing images, music, and even entirely new faces that look so real, even human eyes struggle to tell the difference. This is why GANs are at the heart of AI-driven creativity. They don't just learn patterns, they create. They push AI beyond recognition into generation, unlocking possibilities we never imagined. But before we get too excited, let's pause for a reality check. Training a GAN isn't just a technical challenge, it's also filled with pitfalls. Sometimes the generator gets stuck, producing the same thing over and over again, like an artist who only knows how to paint one kind of landscape. Other times the entire training process breaks down, and all you get is a chaotic mess of unusable noise. And let's not forget, the better GANs get, the harder it becomes to detect their creations. This brings us to an important question. Where do we draw the line between innovation and manipulation? Before we tackle that, let's take a step back and look at how GANs are already changing the world, from art and fashion to medicine and entertainment. The impact is huge, and some of it is happening right now. Imagine waking up one day and seeing a brand new painting by Van Gogh, except he never painted it, or discovering a completely original photograph of a person who doesn't exist. Welcome to the world of GAN-generated images, where AI doesn't just recognize reality, it creates it. GANs are revolutionizing how we think about images. At first, they were just a cool AI experiment, a fun way to generate blurry faces. But today, they're creating high-resolution, hyper-realistic visuals that can fool even the sharpest human eyes. Fashion, gaming, advertising, photography, every industry that deals with images is being reshaped by this technology. Take deepfake technology, for example. By training GANs on thousands of real videos, they can swap faces in a way that looks disturbingly real. You've probably seen viral deepfakes of celebrities saying things they never actually said. It's both fascinating and terrifying. A tool that can be used for both artistic creativity and dangerous deception. But it's not just about faking faces. GANs are being used to create entirely new people. Websites like "This person does not exist" generate AI-created faces of individuals who never walked this earth. These images are now being used in marketing, stock photography, and even social media bots. Imagine an influencer with 1 million followers who isn't even real. Fashion designers are also jumping on the GAN train. AI-generated clothing designs are being tested, adjusted, and marketed before a single piece of fabric is cut. Some brands are even using AI to create virtual models, posing for catalogs, wearing outfits that haven't been physically made yet. It's fashion without limits, designed by an algorithm. And let's talk about movies and gaming. Ever wondered how video game developers create realistic environments? GANs are now used to generate textures, landscapes, and characters. No need for a human artist to spend months designing every detail. The same applies to CGI in movies. Imagine a film where every background, every crowd, even some of the actors are AI generated. It's happening. But perhaps the most stunning use of GANs in image generation is art creation. In 2018, a GAN-generated painting, Edmond de Bellamy, sold for a jaw-dropping $430,500 at an auction. It wasn't painted by a human, but by an AI trained on thousands of artworks. The art world suddenly had to ask, what is creativity? Can a machine be an artist? GANs have unlocked a new level of image generation, creating things that never existed, filling in missing details, enhancing old photos, and producing visuals that push the limits of reality. But as exciting as this is, it also raises big questions. If AI can generate anything, how do we know what's real anymore? Can we trust the images we see? And more importantly, who owns AI-generated creations? Before we dive into the ethics, let's take a step further into another mind-blowing application. How GANs aren't just creating images, but entirely new datasets to supercharge AI learning. Imagine trying to train a world-class athlete with only a handful of practice sessions. Not ideal, right? Now imagine trying to train an AI model with just a small dataset. It struggles, it overfits, and it simply doesn't learn enough. That's where GANs step in like the ultimate AI personal trainer, generating endless high-quality training data. Data is the lifeblood of AI. The more diverse, detailed, and accurate the data, the smarter the model. But here's the problem. In many industries, getting enough data is expensive, time-consuming, or outright impossible. Medical imaging, for example, doctors can't just go out and take thousands of MRI scans for AI training. Privacy laws, ethical concerns, and real-world limitations make data collection tough. But what if we could create data instead of collecting it? GANs have cracked the code. They generate synthetic but realistic training data, helping AI learn better, faster, and with more variety. Take autonomous vehicles. Self-driving cars need to be trained on millions of road scenarios, but collecting real-world footage for every possible situation is impossible. So GANs step in and generate new driving conditions, weather scenarios, and unexpected obstacles, ensuring the AI gets exposure to situations that might never happen in real-world testing. And it's not just cars. Facial recognition systems. They need to be trained on diverse faces from all ethnicities, ages, and lighting conditions. Instead of hunting for millions of photos, GANs generate new faces, helping AI improve without relying on biased or incomplete datasets. Retail companies are using GANs to create synthetic product images, allowing AI models to learn without needing thousands of real-life product photos. And in the medical field, GANs are revolutionizing diagnostics, generating artificial X-rays, MRIs, and CT scans that help train AI without risking patient privacy. But let's not forget one of the coolest uses, video game AI. GANs generate virtual environments, allowing game AI to practice in infinite simulated worlds. Instead of coding every possible interaction, game developers let GANs improvise, creating maps, textures, and scenarios that feel organic and unpredictable. With GAN-generated data, AI models can learn more with less, reducing biases, improving generalization, and speeding up development. But as powerful as this is, it also opens up big questions. If GANs can create data that never existed, can we trust AI-generated evidence in court? Can AI-generated people be used in unethical ways? And at what point does fake data become a problem instead of a solution? As we push the limits of AI learning, we also need to ask, what happens when the student AI surpasses the teacher, human intelligence? Before we go there, let's take a step back and look at something a little less futuristic, but equally challenging. Why training GANs is ridiculously hard, and how even the best AI models struggle to get it right. All right, we've seen how powerful GANs can be. They create mind-blowing images, generate realistic training data, and push the boundaries of AI creativity. But here's the kicker. Training a GAN is notoriously difficult. It's like trying to coach two rivals who refuse to cooperate. If one gets too strong, the whole system collapses. If the other gets too weak, progress grinds to a halt. It's an AI tug of war where balance is everything, and trust me, it goes wrong more often than it goes right. One of the biggest headaches in GAN training is mode collapse. Imagine asking an AI to paint landscapes, and instead of giving you mountains, forests, and beaches, it only generates one type of image, a single tree, slightly modified over and over again. That's mode collapse. The generator figures out a shortcut, realizes it can cheat by producing the same type of data that always fools the discriminator, and stops exploring new possibilities. The result: a GAN that lacks diversity, completely missing the point of creativity. Then there's the issue of vanishing gradients. This happens when the discriminator becomes too powerful, rejecting every single image the generator creates. The generator, getting zero useful feedback, just gives up. It stops learning because no matter what it tries, it fails. It's like a student trying to improve their writing, but the teacher just keeps marking everything as wrong without explaining why. No learning, no progress, just frustration. And let's not forget instability, a problem that haunts almost every GAN researcher. Training a GAN is a delicate dance, and even tiny changes in learning rates, architecture, or dataset quality can cause the entire system to break down. One moment, everything looks great. The next, pure noise. The generator starts producing complete nonsense, and instead of realistic faces or images, you get distorted nightmares straight out of a horror movie. Even when things seem to be going well, another problem lurks in the shadows: non-convergence. Instead of improving over time, the generator and discriminator can get stuck in an endless loop, each one outsmarting the other without actually getting better at generating realistic data. It's like two chess players who keep making moves but never checkmate, an infinite game that leads nowhere. So, what's the solution? Researchers have come up with all kinds of hacks, tweaking loss functions, using tricks like batch normalization, and even introducing progressive training where GANs start small and gradually scale up. But even with these improvements, training GANs remains more art than science, a delicate balance of fine-tuning, patience, and a little bit of luck. And this raises a crucial question. If GANs are so difficult to train, why do we keep pushing forward? The answer is simple. Because when they work, they redefine what's possible. But before we get carried away with what GANs can do, let's take a step into what they should do, because the more powerful they become, the bigger the ethical questions get. Up next, we're diving into how GANs are forcing us to rethink trust, reality, and the responsibility of AI creators. All right, so we've talked about how training a GAN can feel like trying to tame two wild animals, constantly keeping them in balance. But what if there was a way to make them smarter, more stable, and better at creating high-quality images? Enter DCGAN, Deep Convolutional Generative Adversarial Networks. Think of it as the GAN 2.0 upgrade. The moment GANs leveled up from blurry messes to crisp, high-resolution images. In the early days of GANs, the generated images were, let's be honest, pretty bad. Faces looked like smudges, objects were distorted, and the models struggled to capture fine details. But researchers figured out something huge. Convolutional neural networks, CNNs, the same technology that helps AI recognize faces and objects, could also be used to generate images. That's when DCGAN was born. So what makes DCGAN special? First, instead of fully connected layers, which tend to be inefficient and unstable, DCGAN uses convolutional layers. Imagine stacking Lego bricks layer by layer, refining the details at each stage instead of trying to build an entire structure in one go. This approach allows the generator to create much sharper, more realistic images. But there's more. DCGAN introduced batch normalization, which is like giving the AI model a sense of balance. Normally, GANs can go off the rails, producing weird, glitchy results. Batch normalization smooths things out, ensuring that the generator doesn't suddenly start generating mutant faces with 3 eyes. And let's not forget removing fully connected layers. Early GANs relied on these, but they made the training process unstable. DCGAN ditched them, making the generator and discriminator work more efficiently, leading to faster training and better results. The real proof of DCGAN's success? It changed the game for AI-generated images. Suddenly, GANs weren't just random noise machines. They were capable of creating detailed faces, animals, landscapes, and artwork that looked eerily real. It became the foundation for many of today's most powerful GAN architectures, from StyleGAN, which generates hyper-realistic human faces, to BigGAN, which can generate high-resolution images with stunning detail. DCGAN was the breakthrough that made AI-generated images go mainstream. It showed the world that GANs weren't just an academic experiment. They were a tool for real-world applications. From AI-powered art to deepfake technology, DCGAN opened the floodgates to an entirely new level of AI creativity. But of course, as soon as one breakthrough happens, researchers push even further. DCGAN was just the beginning. What if GANs could go beyond just generating high-quality images and start transforming entire styles of artwork, changing seasons in photos, or even swapping objects between different worlds? Well, that's where things get even crazier. Up next, we dive into CycleGAN, an architecture that doesn't just create images, but translates them from one style to another without needing any paired data. And trust me, this one is a game changer. All right, imagine you're looking at a beautiful summer landscape. Green trees, clear blue skies, bright sunshine. Now, what if I told you that AI could take that image and instantly transform it into a winter scene, complete with snow-covered trees and a frosty sky, without ever having seen a direct before and after example? Sounds like magic, right? That's exactly what CycleGAN does. Most AI models need paired examples to learn transformations. If you want an AI to turn a cat into a dog, you'd usually have to give it thousands of carefully matched cat-dog image pairs. But The genius of CycleGAN, it doesn't need pairs. It figures out the transformation on its own just by studying separate collections of images from two different domains. Think of it like this. Imagine you're a painter who has studied Monet's work for years. Now, someone gives you a random modern photograph and asks, "Can you paint this in Monet's style?" You've never seen a direct side-by-side comparison, but because you understand Monet's techniques, colors, and brushstrokes, you can do it. That's how CycleGAN works. It learns the essence of two different styles and finds a way to translate between them. And here's how it pulls off this AI magic trick. CycleGAN doesn't just have one generator, it has two. One generator translates images from domain A to domain B, while the second generator does the reverse, converting images from domain B back to domain A. This round-trip process is called cycle consistency, and it forces the AI to ensure that whatever changes it makes can be undone, keeping transformations realistic. Why is this so powerful? Because it unlocks style transfer and domain adaptation on a whole new level. CycleGAN can turn horses into zebras, apples into oranges, day into night, summer into winter, without ever needing manually labeled data. It's being used to transform real photos into paintings, turning pictures into Van Gogh, Picasso, or Monet-style artwork. Change the seasons in photos, instantly converting summer scenes to winter, or vice versa. Enhance medical imaging, adjusting scans to match different machine types, improving diagnostics. Modify facial expressions, swapping smiles, frowns, or even aging a face realistically. And the result? Stunning. The AI doesn't just copy and paste elements from one image to another, it reinterprets them. The texture of a horse's fur becomes the pattern of a zebra's stripes. A summer sky takes on the muted tones of a winter afternoon. It's AI-powered creativity at its finest. But of course, with great power comes big questions. If AI can seamlessly alter reality, what does that mean for photo authenticity, journalism, and truth in media? If a CycleGAN can make a smiling person frown or turn a sunny protest into a stormy riot, how do we separate real from fake? We're entering an era where AI isn't just generating data, it's transforming it. And the implications go far beyond style transfer. Up next, we're stepping into the ultimate AI showdown, GANs versus Variational Autoencoders, VAEs. Two different approaches, two different strengths. Which one is the future of generative AI? Let's find out. Let's settle an old debate in the world of AI, GANs versus VAEs, Variational Autoencoders. Both are masters of generating new data. Both have their strengths and weaknesses, and both are used in cutting-edge AI research. But which one is the real MVP when it comes to creating high-quality, realistic content? Let's break it down. Imagine you're at an art competition where two different artists have to paint a portrait of someone they've never seen before. The first artist, representing GANs, is incredibly ambitious, but works under pressure. They keep refining their painting based on constant criticism from a judge, fixing details, sharpening edges, improving shading, until the judge can't tell if it's a real portrait or not. That's exactly how GANs work. A generator creates data while a discriminator constantly critiques it, forcing the generator to get better and better. Now, the second artist represents VAEs. Instead of relying on a judge, they use a more mathematical approach. They study hundreds of real portraits, break them down into key features, and then reconstruct their own version based on the patterns they've learned. The result? Their paintings might not have the extreme realism of the first artist's work, but they're well structured, smooth, and make logical sense. That's because VAEs focus on probability distributions, learning the underlying patterns of data rather than engaging in an adversarial battle. So what's the big difference? GANs are incredible at creating ultra-realistic images, but they can be unstable and difficult to train. VAEs, on the other hand, are more predictable and mathematically elegant, but their outputs tend to be blurrier and less detailed. If you're building something that demands high-fidelity realism, like deepfake videos, hyper-realistic AI-generated faces, or photorealistic textures for video games, GANs are the way to go. But if you're working on something like data compression, anomaly detection, or generating structured and interpretable results, VAEs are a solid choice. Another key difference: VAEs generate smoother, more continuous variations of data, making them ideal for things like morphing one object into another or smoothly interpolating between different faces. GANs, on the other hand, focus on sharp, high-quality outputs, but they can suffer from problems like mode collapse, where they get stuck, producing only a limited variety of results. But here's the real twist. Some of the most advanced AI architectures today combine both approaches. Researchers have found ways to merge GANs and VAEs, taking the structure and stability of VAEs and blending it with the raw creative power of GANs. The result? AI that's not only realistic, but also robust, explainable, and controllable. So, which one wins? Well, it depends on what you need. GANs are the champions of realism, but VAEs offer a more structured and mathematically sound way to generate data. In reality, they're two sides of the same coin, each with its own strengths. But let's step back for a moment. No matter which technology wins this battle, both GANs and VAEs are part of a much bigger discussion, one that goes beyond technology and into the realm of ethics, because as AI becomes more powerful, it also becomes easier to manipulate reality. And that brings us to one of the most pressing topics in AI today: deepfakes, misinformation, and the ethical concerns surrounding GANs. Buckle up. This is where things get serious. All right, we've seen how GANs can create stunning images, transform data, and even generate entirely new human faces. But here's the question nobody can afford to ignore. What happens when AI gets too good at faking reality? Imagine scrolling through social media and seeing a video of a world leader announcing a shocking new policy. It looks real. It sounds real. The facial expressions, the voice, the body language, all perfect. But there's just one problem. It never happened. That's the terrifying power of deepfakes, one of the most controversial applications of GANs. Deepfakes use GANs to generate hyper-realistic videos and voices, often mimicking real people with eerie accuracy. At first, they seemed like a fun gimmick, putting celebrities' faces in movie scenes they were never in or swapping voices for comedic effect, but it didn't take long before the risks became very real. Politicians, public figures, and even everyday people have been deep-faked into saying things they never said. Fake news organizations have used AI-generated videos to spread misinformation, creating content so convincing that it can sway public opinion, damage reputations, and even influence elections. The line between truth and fabrication is becoming dangerously thin. And it's not just about videos. GANs are also being used to create synthetic human identities, complete with realistic profile pictures, fake social media histories, and AI-generated text that mimics human conversation. These bots infiltrate online discussions, manipulate opinions, and make it nearly impossible to tell who's real and who isn't. Then there's the issue of privacy and consent. What happens when AI can create fake images of real people? GANs have already been misused to generate non-consensual deepfake content, leading to major concerns about privacy violations and digital harassment. The technology is neutral. It can be used for good or for harm, but once it's out there, we have to decide how to control it. Regulations are struggling to keep up. Laws against deepfakes exist in some places, but enforcement is tricky. How do we prove whether something was AI-generated or real? Researchers are working on AI tools to detect deepfakes, but as GANs improve, so do the fakes, creating an endless cat-and-mouse game between deception and detection. So where do we draw the line? Should there be strict regulations on GAN technology? Should AI-generated content always be watermarked or labeled to distinguish it from reality? And most importantly, how do we prepare for a world where seeing is no longer believing? As we push forward with AI advancements, ethical responsibility must be part of the conversation. But this isn't just a problem, it's also an opportunity. GANs can be used for incredible positive applications, from medical research to creative arts. The challenge is making sure that this technology is used to build, not to deceive. But where do we go from here? What's next for GANs? Are we heading toward a world of AI-powered creativity, or are we walking into a reality where trust itself is in jeopardy? That's exactly what we're about to explore. Let's take a look at the future of GAN research and what breakthroughs are on the horizon. We've seen GANs go from experimental AI models to game changers in creativity, data generation, and even deception. But what's next? Are we heading toward a future where AI-generated content is seamlessly integrated into our daily lives, or are we walking into an era where reality itself becomes questionable? The truth is, we're only scratching the surface of what GANs can do. Researchers are already pushing the limits, developing more advanced models that solve some of the biggest challenges we've discussed: instability, training difficulties, and ethical concerns. One major breakthrough is conditional GANs, CGANs, which allow users to have more control over AI generation. Instead of just generating random images, CGANs let you specify exactly what you want, whether it's a face with a certain expression, a specific type of artwork, or even the age progression of a person's face over time. Then there's multimodal GANs, which go beyond just images. Imagine an AI that can generate not just pictures, but sounds, music, and even text simultaneously, blending different forms of media into one creative output. Think AI-generated movies, music videos, where the AI writes the script, creates the visuals, and composes the soundtrack, all from scratch. Another massive area of research: cross-domain applications. GANs are already transforming healthcare, creating synthetic medical scans to help doctors diagnose diseases without compromising patient privacy. But in the future, AI could generate entire drug formulas, creating new medicines by simulating chemical structures. In fashion, GANs could predict trends, designing clothing based on what will be popular next season. In architecture, AI could generate sustainable city layouts, optimizing urban spaces for energy efficiency and traffic flow. And then, of course, there's the question of training improvements. Right now, GANs require an absurd amount of data and processing power to function at their best. But new approaches like self-supervised learning and reinforcement GANs aim to make these models faster, more efficient, and less data hungry. Imagine a GAN that learns on the fly, adapting in real time without needing millions of training examples. That's where we're heading. But with great power comes, well, you know the rest. The ethical debate around GANs will only get louder as they become more powerful. How do we regulate AI-generated content? Should there be laws requiring all AI-created media to have invisible watermarks to prove they're synthetic? Will GAN-generated deepfakes become so advanced that even AI detectors can't catch them? These are the questions we need to answer before AI fully blurs the line between what's real and what's artificial. So, what's the big takeaway? GANs are here to stay. They are shaping industries, redefining creativity, and challenging our very perception of truth. The next 5 years will determine whether they become one of the greatest tools for human innovation or one of the biggest ethical dilemmas we've ever faced. But before we wrap things up, let's take a final step back. What have we really learned about GANs? Let's summarize everything and bring it all together in our last slide. We've gone on a wild ride through the world of generative adversarial networks, from how they work to how they're shaping industries to the ethical dilemmas they pose. But before we close the book on GANs, let's take a step back and reflect on the key takeaways. At their core, GANs are a battle between two AI models: a generator that creates fake data and a discriminator that tries to detect the fakes. This game of deception and detection pushes both models to improve, resulting in AI-generated content that can be shockingly realistic. GANs are already making waves in multiple industries. They've revolutionized image generation, creating synthetic faces, landscapes, and even fine art. They've transformed data augmentation, helping AI models learn from synthetic datasets when real-world data is limited. They've entered entertainment, fashion, medicine, and gaming, generating everything from realistic textures to deepfake videos. And with architectures like DCGAN and CycleGAN, they've unlocked new possibilities for style transfer, domain adaptation, and artistic expression. GANs are already making waves in multiple industries. They've revolutionized image generation, creating synthetic faces, landscapes, and even fine art. They've transformed data augmentation, helping AI models learn from synthetic datasets when real-world data is limited. They've entered entertainment, fashion, medicine, and gaming, generating everything from realistic textures to deepfake videos. And with architectures like DCGAN and CycleGAN, they've unlocked new possibilities for style transfer, domain adaptation, and artistic expression. But as with all powerful technology, GANs come with serious ethical concerns. Deepfakes are challenging the way we perceive truth. AI-generated content is making it harder to distinguish fact from fiction. And privacy? Misinformation and AI bias are issues that demand urgent attention. The conversation about responsible AI use is only just beginning, and regulations will need to evolve to keep up with this rapidly advancing technology. Looking ahead, GANs are far from done evolving. We're heading into a future where AI-generated content will be more customizable, controllable, and cross-modal, blending text, images, audio, and video into seamless, fully AI-created experiences. Self-supervised learning and efficient training methods will make GANs more powerful than ever, reducing the need for massive datasets while increasing their ability to generate hyper-realistic content. So, where does that leave us? GANs aren't just a cool AI trick. They're a revolution in artificial creativity. They're blurring the line between what's real and what's generated. And in doing so, they're forcing us to rethink trust, authenticity, and the role of AI in society. The question is no longer whether GANs will shape the future, it's how we choose to use them. And with that, our journey through GANs comes to an end. But before we wrap up, let me leave you with this thought. If AI can now create anything, what does it mean to be truly original? That's a question we'll all have to answer as we step into the future of AI-generated reality.